name's Jo. I'm one of the worship team here at Hope Church, and we're just going to be kicking off the afternoon session now. Just before we start, I've had a little reminder from Gail to point you in the direction of the Take What You Need wall, which I don't know, have you noticed it, guys, on there? It's so beautiful. It's take what you need, sort of blessings. If you need a bit of encouragement, if you need a bit of blessing for things, there's words of scripture to speak over yourselves. So yeah, just head that way if you can and have a look and see if you want any of that stuff. So is everybody sitting down? I'll give you 15 more seconds. Has everybody had a lot to eat at lunchtime and is feeling ready for this afternoon, or are we all going to fall asleep now? We'll try and keep you awake. Okay, so as I said, my name's Jo. I'm Jo Dickens, and I have got the pleasure of introducing you all to a lovely lady called Helen Crandley from Safe Families. Woo! Hello. So Helen is the program director for Safe Families, and she looks after families. She looks after teams looking after families across the Midlands area. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a good description.
And you live in Nottingham, so not far from here. Woo!
Yes, Nottingham in the house.
So Helen's very, very kindly agreed to come along this afternoon and talk to us a little bit more about Safe Families, about who they are, how the charity works. Yeah, this is our named charity for this year for Jewel. Woo! And really about how you might want to get involved yourselves with Safe Families once you've heard about all the wonderful work that they do. Over to you, Helen.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, it is so great to be asked to be the Jewel kind of nominated charity this year. It has been such a personal privilege just to sit here with you guys this morning and just receive. And I described it a bit earlier, like just kind of coming up to an oasis in the desert. And it's just phenomenal. I love being in a room full of women. There's something very empowering about it. So thank you for inviting me. And Safe Families, really, I kind of need to start before I talk about what Safe Families does, is kind of just talk about what is the problem that Safe Families exists to deal with. And we've kind of touched upon it this morning as well. We've talked about brokenness. We've talked about living in the mess. And the ladies that came up earlier, just so inspiring, Helen and Carol. Like, everyone needs a Helen and Carol in their life, right? We live in a broken world, and we need relationships like that to sustain us. And, you know, you might have experienced brokenness on quite a deep level. You might have seen it in other people. It might have been isolation, abuse, trauma, addiction. They are very real things. And as much as it is lovely to come and worship God and know that he's got us, we also need to be really real about the fact that those things are incredibly hard when we're walking through them. Safe Families. Safe Families is not so much about making families safe, although that is definitely what happens in how we work with families. But actually it's about introducing families to a safe family. And for so many people that we meet through Safe Families, they don't have positive networks of people in their lives. They don't have a Helen and a Carol. They don't have somebody that's looking out for them when they're going through whatever it is they're going through. Isolation is a really common theme in all of the families that we meet, and care leavers. And one of those care leavers, in fact, Jackie, my colleague Jackie, sat at the front. She went and met a care leaver from Leicester about a year ago. And the care leaver was wrapping up birthday presents for herself because there was nobody else in her life that was going to do that for her. And it broke our hearts, but that is the reality of the communities that we live in. And for us, there is a real biblical calling to kind of look for the widow and the orphan in our society, which aren't actually always widows and orphans. They are people who are vulnerable, that need protection, that need us to step up and stand in for them. I can't see whether the slides are up or not. They're not quite there yet. That's fine. I will ad-lib. That's good. Excuse any verbal diarrhea. So we do have a phenomenal way of trying to support these families. And I guess what I'm trying to say is we see the brokenness in our society. We see things that feel really big, really messy. And I think sometimes we think, what could little old me do to help in that situation with that family, with that person that I've come across? And so the model of Safe Families is that we put volunteers, train and support volunteers to come alongside families in their brokenness. And we do that in kind of 3 key roles. There are family friends, and family friends can be anything to kind of come in alongside a child, an adult. Oh yes, we've got graphics, lovely. It was worth my while putting the PowerPoint together. Family friends, can do anything from being alongside children, alongside adults, and as the name suggests, it's not just coming in and doing a set piece of work and then leaving and forgetting about the person. It is trying to develop a friendship with somebody who could be quite isolated and quite alone. And then we train and support people to offer their homes as host homes. So this is kind of offering a home to a child overnight who is in need. It might be in an emergency. So a really common example is you've got a mum rushed to hospital to have a baby. She's got no one else to look after her older children. She's got no safe network around her. And these host homes can come and love those children and be part of that journey when they're in crisis. That's something that my family have done a number of times over in Nottingham, and genuinely, I'm not saying that to kind of big myself up, but actually we have loved having those children. They have given to us as much as we've been there for them. It is amazing to be able to be part of their journey at that time. And resource friends, because families need stuff. It might be white goods, it might be baby equipment, it might be that they've got a garden that's overgrown and they haven't got anywhere for their children to play. And that is a really key volunteer role for us. And so how Safe Families work is we kind of coordinate those roles. So we meet a family. Families are often referred to us from social services, from social workers, family support workers, sometimes GPs, midwives, health visitors. They see that there's a need for that family to have a bigger network. They're referring to Safe Families. We do a lot of risk assessment. We try and work out, is this the right support for this family at the right time? Is it safe? Can we do this well? And then we go and meet the family. We connect them with a volunteer. We listen very carefully to what it is they feel that they need. It's very family-led. And then we introduce volunteers and we regularly review how that support works, what's going on, what's going well, does anything need to change? So that's kind of the core model of Safe Families, and it's incredibly successful in terms of how a family can feel supported by more than just one person that they've met on the school run. It's about feeling connected to a community. And there's that really amazing phrase that it takes a village to raise a child. And it is so true. And I'll talk about myself later, trying to keep that on the smaller side of things. But there's also a statistic that's come about recently that a child needs 3 positive adults in their life. And that is the foundation for how well they're going to be able to engage with community, with society. Just 3 positive adults that show them what good relationships look like. So I'm going to hopefully show you a video, Tam's story. Tam is a lady that, from Dudley over in the West Midlands. And she will explain her story for herself, hopefully.
I grew up in care because I lost my mum and dad when I was a kid. Being a single mum with 2 kids and not having much support, like families, because I haven't got no family. I just wanted someone to understand me, like someone to help me, someone who can believe in me. Yeah, Peter and Vivian, they're like helping with the children. Like if I wanted an hour to myself, they'll come up and collect the children, leave me for an hour, do what I've got to do. And I've got Sue and Ray that help me with gardening and just take me out basically to get out for a bit.
She was very worried that she wasn't doing things right and maybe the children might be taken off her. And
she'd never had the parental support, had she really? What she was doing, she was making up on her own half the time, and she didn't know whether that was right or wrong. We volunteered to take the kids out, let's see the kids growing up, and for them to relate to you and know who you are, to know that we're giving Tam a break as well.
Because obviously I suffer with anxiety and depression, and obviously I can't take the children out, so I'm constantly with the children 24 hours a day, don't get like an hour to myself, so it affects my mental health a bit. If I didn't have them, I think I would have gone downhill and I would have lost my kids. And it's just nice to know somebody you can talk to when you need help.
So especially with Ray, I'm always on the phone to him, how to put a curtain pole up, what do I use? He teach me how to use the lawnmower, the strimmer, so I could be independent a lot more. They're really good people. They've helped me, and you know what, they never judge me for what I've been through and what I've done.
Well, it's just a wonderful thing to do. It's just clearly God's will that these families should have help and should feel loved.
It made me feel like I've got a family, that I've got an auntie and uncle, or a mum and a dad. So it was nice to have that bond with them. They do change your life. When you're in a bad place, they make it positive. Yeah, so you're not on your own. I'm excited to see them because I know they're coming to see me and I've got someone to talk to. It's like my family, really. Yeah, I'm like my family.
I can see a few people doing the same as me, tearing up. It's fine. I've seen that video so many times and it still gets me. And it's true, we all need family. We all need good people around us. And yeah, I'm sure you might be able to relate on a personal level to kind of feelings of anxiety, loneliness, depression. We are not immune to that because we're Christians. And I think, you know, if something struck a nerve there, perhaps you've got that empathy for that mum, or you know somebody in that situation, and I just really encourage you to lean into that because God gives you those emotions for a reason. So yeah, there are 3 ways to respond to kind of how safe families are working, and I just really invite you to consider carefully what that might be for you this morning and this afternoon. Time has escaped me. Joe is obviously wearing the amazing Safe Families t-shirt, and that's because Joe is a Safe Families volunteer, which is wonderful. And so I just would love to ask you, Joe, a little bit more about how and why you got involved and kind of any highlights that have happened for you.
So I think I first responded to Safe Families having seen a Facebook post that Lou McD put on Facebook about wanting volunteers, and just looking at it and thinking, yes, that looks great stuff. Always had an interest in sort of like fostering and stuff, but not in a season to do that kind of thing. And looking at Safe Families, you know, it's really about empowering mothers, fathers, parents, families to stay together, isn't it? And obviously there's a huge place for fostering and adoption, which is wonderful, but there's also a place for supporting and facilitating families to stay together, which is great as well. So, but decided to do all this just before COVID, so clearly couldn't sort of do the hosting side of things at that point, so did family friend for a little while, just phone calls, and particularly around sort of like the matching system where you can look at what the need is and you know, if you feel like you've got something to give in that area, so particularly around I've got a child with additional educational things, so being matched with a mum that had a child with, you know, that allowed us to have conversations that she might not have felt so comfortable with, so I did that for a while, and then was able to do some hosting as well, which has been, well, it's just lovely, yeah, with a family, with a 2-year-old who's very busy, yeah, and that's been great. And then the other highlight is doing some fun with my t-shirt, because I did some fundraising recently. I swam a 5k open water swim to raise money for Safe Families, so that's another highlight of, yeah.
And I met someone lovely in the toilet at break time. We were talking about you doing open water swimming, and it's just the most terrifying thing in the world to me that you don't know what's underneath your feet when you're swimming, but there you go.
I didn't wear the t-shirt as I swam. No. That would have been a bit, would have dragged me down.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Joe. It's really, really helpful. I do also want to invite Lou up in just a second, because I think there's another slide. There should be a little map of Leicester. Hopefully, yes. So this is a map of Leicester and the surrounding areas. All these little dots are phenomenal volunteers. And over the last 3 years that we've been able to work in Leicester, we've supported over 100 families to find connection and hope and support and belonging. And it is incredible, and every one of those is an amazing story. But we've also had the privilege of being connected with care leavers. So somebody like Tam, but not necessarily with children. And obviously growing up in care, it automatically puts you at a disadvantage in terms of having an extended support network of family. And in a very vulnerable time as they leave care and try and transition into adulthood and independence. So Lou, if you want to come up and just talk about the care leaver that your family has supported, that would be great.
Yeah, so as Helen said, often care leavers are kind of in this transitional time of life where they've perhaps gone through the care system and are trying to really forge a way forward, a positive way for themselves and make positive changes in their life and be independent. And that can be very tricky if perhaps you haven't had the fundamental building blocks that other children have during their early years. And, you know, you take things for granted that you may have aunties, uncles, grandparents, very positive friends in your life you can just lean on and ask, and things like cooking, cleaning, how you do a meal plan. And I think what's been wonderful as a family for us is, even during COVID, actually drawing alongside this one particular young lad who was so desperate to be independent and make positive, not make the same, not errors, not go along the same path as he had as a child. He wanted something different for himself, but he didn't really know how to do that. And the people in his life who he would hang out with were not positive people, and it was a struggle, you know. And actually what we were able to do as a family, but particularly my husband, was just to be a friend. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, we take having friendships for granted. There are people outside of this building where we live, your next door neighbours, who do not have friends that are positive. And so my husband was just able to play video games with him, maybe go for a walk if he wanted to. But what's been incredible is that's a long friendship now. I don't think my husband's even linked with him officially anymore, but they're still friends, they still hang out, and he comes to church and he sits in the middle with his 3 random friends he brings, his ex-girlfriend and her baby. She wants to come to Tots. But it's not rocket science. Matt met up with him and did video games. And yeah, so like that's just an incredible story. He comes to our house. He came on Boxing Day when you weren't really allowed, but we were allowed because we were key workers or something. He came for dinner, plays with our kids, hangs out, does the washing up, loves it, absolutely loves it. And I couldn't recommend it enough for someone to just stand in the gap alongside someone who is just trying to make a positive future for themselves. Is that enough?
That's brilliant. Thank you, Lou.
I could talk for days.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Lou. And I think for anyone that's involved as a volunteer or in staff or both, I was a volunteer before I had the privilege of being able to work here. There's normally something really personal that brings it home for us. And for me, I've got 3 boys at home, 5, 6 and 9. Thank you so much for inviting me today. And they are a handful. And honestly, like 3 years ago, I hit rock bottom and I was trying to do too much, pulled in every direction. And, you know, I remember distinctly sitting in a room, watching my kids play, be normal kids, having fun, and just feeling so disconnected from it and not able to engage. And I beat myself up because I was like, I'm not the mum that I want to be right now. And I couldn't access what I needed to do to be the mum that I wanted for them. And for so many of our families, they don't ask for the trauma. Thank you. They want to be good parents. They want to be good people in society. And there's something really simple we can all do to help with that. So yeah, whew, there we go. I think we're nearly there, which is good. I knew I was going to cry. So yeah, before I just put up those 3 ways that you can respond, being a volunteer is phenomenal. And it really is such a great privilege. And I get that for some people it's not the right time, and that you don't have that kind of spare hour a week or whatever it is right now. But you know that this strikes a nerve in you and you want to help and you want to support. So just if you have a look at, there's 2 other ways, hopefully, that you can... 2 other ways. So the first one is praying. And again, Helen and Carol, you really inspired me this morning about the power of prayer and how that resonates with you. You can sign up to be a prayer supporter with us. You can get a monthly email. They'll send you prayer requests, but amazingly, they will also send you examples of answered prayer. And we believe in a big God that does more than we can ask or imagine. And one of our values at Safe Families is trusting boldly that he has gone before us. He knows the families that we're going to meet. And lastly is about giving. And really the kind of main reason I think for Joel to ask Safe Families here today is to make that a really explicit ask for you. And I would love you to prayerfully consider if that's something that you can do today. And just to kind of re-emphasise the stories that you've heard from Joe, from Lou, from myself, they're only possible because of the generosity of people like you. And I would love it if you could take that opportunity to kind of support us financially. It would be incredible. So let me just talk through a few different ways that you might be able to do that. So if you are sitting here with a smartphone, there is a QR code, which is about the most technological thing I can ever imagine putting on a PowerPoint. But you can apparently screenshot that and it will take you to the website, or old school where you can just put it into the internet directly, so safefamilies.uk/donate. And you've got options there. You can make a one-off donation, which are fantastic. This allows us basically to try and resource the need that we've already identified in the year that we know that we're going to need to spend. We have a gap. We do work with local authorities. We do get funding from them, but there is a gap of about £300 a year for every family, every care leaver that we support. And then you can also choose to support us monthly. And our monthly supporters are incredible because they allow us to plan, to dream, and to invest in the long term. We've been working really hard on how we support families with a trauma-informed approach. And in the last couple of years, we've developed this specialist program where we can kind of coach families in a therapeutic way as to how to manage the behaviour of children where they've experienced trauma in their lives. And this is the kind of thing that I'm thinking of when I'm thinking, let us dream, let us invest in Leicester, because we know that there are loads of families out there where, yes, a supportive network is going to make a massive difference, but there's also that role for kind of really specific therapeutic support. And that is really the dream that I have for Leicester. So yes, so you can do one-off donations on the website. You can become a monthly supporter on our website, which we would love. I think there is also going to be some buckets coming round where you'll be so welcome to invest in us with cash resource as well. Hopefully you have also found a little postcard under your chair. I'm really sorry if I've not got the right chairs. I was trying to work out who had sat where. On that postcard, which should look like this, it says, how do I get involved? There are 3 key ways to support us. So volunteering, yes, please. Giving, yes, please. Praying, yes, please. If you are able to do any or all of those, we would absolutely love your support to help us keep doing what we're doing. So basically, if you put your details in there, you can have a phone call from the team. They'll get in touch with you about how you might be able to do that or progress your conversations in that area. And hopefully, I think you've got a pen in your pack. So you also hopefully noticed some chocolate. I bought way too many chocolates, so I should have given you about 3 per chair, but never mind, I'll put some more at the front. And that is just because we want to bless you. However you choose to respond today, we just want to bless you because you are loved, you were created for a purpose. The world needs you to do what only you can do. You are daughters of the King, and it is such a blessing just to be able to see you here and belong and be part of the conference today. And talking about belonging, you might have noticed some little pictures on the screen. Our lovely Jackie is up there. Jackie's one of our family support managers in Leicester, so she's the lady that will help connect volunteers to families in Leicester. Joel obviously couldn't come today, never mind Joel, but he's the guy that would take you through becoming a volunteer, doing a volunteer assessment and training. To give you everything that you need to be a great volunteer. But please do connect with us regardless of how you've chosen to respond today. We are now on Instagram, which makes us, I think, proper 21st century charity. But there's a website, Facebook as well. Please do make a note of those. We just want you to belong and to be part of our journey. We love telling stories. We love you to be part of our stories. So thank you so much. It's such an honour to be with you. Thank you, Joe, and to the team. You guys are ace.
Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you.
Oh, one last thing, sorry, I'll get told off if I don't say this. If anyone wants an old school direct debit form, I'll put some over there as well. There you go.
And can I just also point out, in your gift bags as well, there is a, what's it called? Gift aid envelope. That's what I meant. No, that's fine. So if you are able to give with gift aid, then you could use those envelopes as well. But thank you so much, Helen. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
I wish I wore my t-shirt.
Yes. Were you twins then?